Hey, hello everyone and welcome to Real Life Racing episode 10. Now first of all I just want to say apologies for this being so long before I got it out. It's been an absolute nightmare. I'll come on to that in a little bit, but yeah, so as you can see for race 1 I'm starting all the way down in 24th place, which means I've actually qualified in 24th place. This hasn't been one of the other races where I've been knocked off and ended up finishing in 24th, so started in 24th on the next race. I've actually qualified in 24th place, which isn't great really. I think it's probably the lowest I've ever qualified at any point throughout the last 2 seasons of doing this. And the reason for that was there was a bit of a transponder issue, which is what records your lap time. So it was a bit of a system issue there, which meant that I only got 3 laps of qualifying in, and those 3 laps were 3 laps where I'd already kind of given up a little bit. You know, I was looking for some space. It was quite hectic. I'd already put my best laps in before that issue had been sorted, so I only managed to get 3 laps of qualifying, and they weren't very good ones. So yeah, that put me on the back foot a little bit right from the start. It wasn't the best way to start the weekend really, and start the round, but nevertheless, you know, that's where I found myself, so I had to sort of push on and see what I could do. The kart itself on this one wasn't that great anyway. However, I worked out that if I'd got the best lap that I got throughout the race, if I'd got that in the qualifying, I would have been around 10th position, something like that. So that you know, it's a hell of a lot better than 24th, but never mind, you know, that's how it is. So obviously on the first lap, as you've seen there, I've managed to get up to 21st place, and I'm basically just trying to push on, and when you're in this far back, you're kind of in a bit of a dogfight really. I've mentioned it before in previous episodes where I've been sort of fighting through the pack. It is quite difficult when you're back here because people are a bit more aggressive. You know, it's not as clean as it is when you're racing with people up at the front who are all on similar pace. Now, normally when I'm this far back, I'm kind of working my way back through the pack, and I can do that reasonably quickly because, you know, there's a big difference in performance. Whereas for this one, because the kart isn't that great in the first place, it's a lot more difficult to actually get that position, you know, get every position. And when everybody's fighting around you and being quite aggressive, it's difficult to work your way through. So yeah, it's a bit difficult, and I guess I'd learned my lesson from a previous video. As you can see there, you know, I'm just being left in a straight line, and that was the difference really on the karts. If I even catching up in the corners, I'm just sort of being left a little bit on the straights, and that was the issue that I was having with the kart. But yeah, I've mentioned it before that when you are back here, if you have a problem with the kart, it's generally better that you just stay in it. You know, I think it was the last episode, I don't know, I can't remember exactly, but I think it was the last episode where I had a problem with the kart and I decided to come into the pits and get it changed, but I lost so much time by doing that it wasn't worth it in the end, and I would have been better off just staying with it and seeing where I could come. So that's what I'd learned my lesson, and that's what I decided to do for this. Just stick with the kart despite its disadvantages, and just see where I could get and see how many positions I could make up. Now, just to let you know why this has taken so long, it's mainly been I've been, you know, very busy with other things, you know, making a lot of other videos on the channel. I've been quite busy with that sort of thing, and the motivation really hasn't been there as much for this one as it has been for other rounds. As you probably know already, the title of this one is From Bad to Worse, and if you thought the last round was bad in terms of point scoring, this one doesn't get any better. So yeah, the motivation hasn't really been there as much as it was for previous rounds, but there are still some fun, interesting races in this one, and I've just been really busy with making some other videos, and that's why it's taken so long. So this is the September round that you're watching now, and as I'm recording this, I've already completed the October round. So that's how far behind I am. I'm about a month behind. But then, you know, it's not going to be too long of a wait until you see the October one anyway, and that means there's only one more round to go, which is the November round. So yeah, there'll be this episode and then one more episode, and then there'll be the last episode of the season, showing the last round of the season, and I'll talk more about the championship and all that sort of stuff in that episode. So as you can see, I've made my way up to 19th place, and we're already on to lap 8 at this point, and it's taken me a long time to catch up to these guys in front. In fact, I haven't really been making much of an impression until the last sort of lap where they've been battling with each other, and that's where I've managed to sort of catch up a little bit here, as you can see. And that just shows, the performance isn't really there in this kart and in my performance for this race. So I'm struggling to even catch up to people really and make those positions and get through the pack like I normally would be. So I've obviously got up into 18th place there, and the best that I can hope for really over these next 2 laps is to catch up, get in front of the 2 guys that are directly in front of me. Maybe the 2 guys in front of them, possibly, if they start having issues or having problems. But as you can see, it's a bit of a dogfight. People are all over the road really, having different lines and corners and trying to battle with each other and defending from each other and things like that. Obviously, as you can see there again, I'm being left on the straight a little bit, and that frustrated me a bit there. And someone managed to get up the inside of me just because I wasn't concentrating, and it was stupid of me. So yeah, it's a bit of a dogfight, and as you can see here, I just get hung out to dry on this corner just by being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that all spawned from not having that straight line speed at the end of the straight and getting caught out there. So I was having a bit of a rough time at this point. I back down in 20th place, but I managed to get a good move here up the inside. So my racecraft was still there. I was able to get moves done, and we're coming into the chicane here. I leave some space for him, and that happens. I basically just got punted off. I think the 2 guys that I just passed on the outside of that corner, I was definitely ahead of them, and I think they just decided to spear into the corner, 2 of them at once, and it was never going to fit. I kind of left space for the guy who was sort of just in front of me, but that wasn't enough space for the other 2 who just came steaming in and blatantly, just completely hit me, and I spun out. So ended up in 25th place in this race. Obviously no time to catch up because that was on the second to last lap, and I think that's pretty much the lowest placing that I've ever had, lowest place I've ever finished a race in the whole entire thing. So again, we're back on for race 2, and we're starting in the same position. I don't really know what's happening at the start here. I should be starting in 25th, but there's guys all around that aren't really in the positions that they're meant to be, and it's all a bit more of a mess around this area compared to what it's like at the front of the pack sort of thing for the start of a race where everybody's close together. And this is going to be our feature race. This is where you'll see all of it with no highlights, because I've got a bit of a better kart than I did in the last race, and I have a little bit of a better performance. So as you can see, I started in the same position as I did in the last race, and by the first few corners I've already made up 4 places. And although I get a bit pushed off there, I think that was a little bit naughty. I was already up the inside, but never mind. Again, it's the same sort of thing, back down here it's a bit of a dogfight, but when you've got a kart underneath you that can give me the times that I'm used to getting, the lap times that I'm used to getting and the performance that I'm used to, then it becomes a reasonable amount easier. I get hit in the back there, I think at least 3 times, by the way, there. That's what happened there. I think, someone goes in the back of me, someone then goes in the back of him, which hits me again. That's the kind of thing that you get when you back down here. It's just a lot of people all going for the same area of track and not necessarily being as clean as they possibly could be, but never mind. So 5 places made up on the first lap. That's a hell of a lot better than I managed for about 8 laps on the previous race. And yeah, I'm just making progress all the time. As you can see here again, made up another 2 positions there. And really all I'm doing on this round is just having a bit of fun with it now. I've already got 0 points from the first race. I think you have to get around 22nd position sort of to get 1 point. And obviously because I finished in 25th, I got absolutely nothing, and I think that's the first time I've ever scored 0 points from a race. It's a shame that it wasn't really my own fault, but never mind. So yeah, I already know that this isn't going to be very good for me in terms of points for the championship or anything like that. Even if I was to win every single race from this point on, I would still only get 75 points, and that's not going to happen because I'm already starting so far behind. So I'm just looking to have a bit of fun, just getting some interesting videos, I guess, and I've managed to do that for this one. Up into 16th place already, so 8 places gained from the start in 2 laps. And yeah, I'm just pushing on and having a bit of fun, getting some overtakes done, practicing some overtakes, and working my way through the pack and trying to beat those guys who basically knocked me off and caused me so many issues in the previous race. So yeah, at this point I've got up to 16th place, and I can already see a big, a large group in front of me. As you can see, they're going around that corner. There is a large group there, so this is only the 3rd lap. I do have quite a bit of hope at this point, because that large group is there all fighting with each other, that I can sort of make my way through that group and at least get mixed up with it and get a few positions every now and again and see if I can make an impression, really. Obviously that's what everybody else wants to do, but yeah, I'm sort of coming back through the pack and just trying to get the most out of what has been so far a pretty poor round. So 2 places gained again on that lap, just right at the end there, and this is where it starts getting interesting, because this is where it's pretty much a battle for the rest of the race. As you'll see, it's difficult in this sort of kind of situation. You know that you are quicker than probably a lot of the guys in front, because you've been catching them up at such a pace, but they don't know that. They just think you're another racer who's just behind them and trying to pass them. So they will try and defend from you, as they should, and they'll try and pass you again once you've got past, as they should. But if you are quicker than them, really, any kind of maneuver that they do that slows you down is even worse than if you were kind of on their pace as well. It gets you more frustrated than you otherwise would be, I guess you could say, because you feel like you should be making up positions a lot quicker than what you actually are. But you've just got to, as I said, you've just got to have some fun with it and really just take it for what it is. So obviously I gained 1 more position there on that last lap, and I got a good run out of the final corner to make up another position going into the first corner, and that means I'm now in 12th position after 4 laps completed. Now obviously I've made up 12 positions in those 4 laps, and if I continue that rate of progress, I'll be in the lead by lap 8. But that's not really how it works, because as you get higher up through the pack, you start coming across people who are quicker than what you've sort of encountered before, and it becomes a lot more difficult to make those overtakes and get those positions made up. As you can see, it's difficult at this point, because you start coming across people who start to know what they're doing a little bit more than what you have been experiencing, are a little bit quicker. And it's just hard to get through them and make those moves stick. So what you'll see is just a pretty interesting battle with all of these guys, and we'll see how it ends up by the end. But yeah, in terms of the championship this season, I've always really been focusing on how I've done compared to sort of the last season. The previous season was my first season doing this. And this season has all been about improvement and improving my performances, getting a little bit better every single time, and just trying to better myself when it comes to racing in general and getting better results. And this is really the first time where I've had a major setback, I guess you could say. And I think the last few rounds have generally been because of my qualifying performance. Really, it hasn't been up to standard, I guess. Obviously I couldn't really do anything about the technical issue that happened for the first race in this episode, but in previous episodes, honestly, I don't think my qualifying has been very good, and that's something that I'm sort of conscious that I need to work on a little bit more, because it's just so difficult when you do start further back in the pack. The higher up that you start, especially if it's in sort of the top 3, top 4 positions, you can kind of get a good gap among other people behind you, and you can sort of remain in those top 3 or 4 positions, or at least the top 5 or 6. Even if you lose a couple of places, it's not going to be such a big deal. Whereas if you're starting in sort of the 10th, 11th, 12th positions, or even worse, further back in the 20th positions as I've started today, it's a lot more difficult because you've just got so many people around you and you just can't run the same kind of lap times that you're used to running. And this sort of thing happens, as you've just seen there. You get caught up with people, then you get overtaken by people who are behind, and it loses you time a lot more than what it does when you're standing at the front. So getting a better qualifying position is something that I definitely need to focus on. Throughout this series, I've mentioned a lot of different things that I've needed to focus on and needed to improve, whether it be race starts, defending better, attacking more, like getting moves done a bit easier, just generally being a bit more aware. There's been lots of things that I've been wanting to improve upon throughout the course of this season, and obviously just going back to the video there, it does get a bit crazy at that point. But yeah, there's been a lot of things that I've wanted to improve upon, and I think I have done that quite well. It's just a case of putting it all together, really, and you can always find something else to improve upon. I've improved upon a lot of things that I've been doing throughout this season, but there's still always something else, and the next thing is just a qualifying performance. So yeah, as we come on to this part of the video, obviously many incidents happen right there. I'm getting bashed around a lot of the time in the early part of this lap, and then as you've just seen there, the three guys in front were having a pretty serious coming together, I guess you could say. One of them goes off the track, the other one nearly does. I managed to get in front of both of them, and that gets me up into 10th place. And at this point, I'm aware that I need to get in front of this guy and just get away. Really, I just can't stay with these guys all this time. I managed to get a good bit of a slipstream there. Just get put out at the right moment. Get on the inside here, going into the first corner, and that gets me up into 9th place with a clear track ahead. Now I haven't had a clear track ahead for pretty much the entirety of this episode so far, and I know that this is the time where I need to start pushing. I don't want to get passed again between the guy, by anyone behind me, because that will send me straight back into the pack that I've just been in and being bashed around in. So I'm just pushing as much as I can at this point, just to get a bit of a gap. And as I said earlier, I feel like I'm quicker than the guys behind me that I've just got through in the pack, and I've just not been able to sort of put those good lap times in because I've been battling. Whereas now it's all changed. Now I can actually put those good lap times down. I can just go at my own pace and try to make a bit of a gap to the guys behind me, and that's what I do. As you'll see in terms of the lap times, I've had a 1 minute 8.9, a 1 minute 9.1, then a really bad one, a 1 minute 10.8, just battling. And as soon as I get into clean air, I put in a 1 minute 7.6 straight away. And that's what really helps me keep this 9th position till the end of the race. I managed to get another 1 minute 7 on this lap as well. And those lap time, that's the difference between just being able to run at your own pace and running in the pack, really, of people who are slower than you, or at that moment during the race slower than you, or at least just battling with you. So yeah, and that's the kind of difference as well between sort of being at the back of the pack, running with a lot of people, and running at the front of the pack. Because say at the front of the race, when you're in if you could be running with 4 different people all battling with each other, but you're not going to be running 1 minute 10 lap times. You're going to be all running 1 minute 7 lap times, because everybody knows the places to overtake. Everybody knows where they can defend, where they have to defend, where they need to overtake, and you lose a lot less time by doing that. You only defend on the places where you need to defend, and because you're all doing that at the same time, you're all going a lot quicker for it. So even though you are slower than what you probably would be if you were racing on your own, by battling with people at the front who know what they're doing, you're racing with people, you're not losing as much time as what you otherwise would be if you're battling in the pack. So I've managed to get from 24th place to 9th position there during that race, made up 15 positions, which is pretty decent going, I guess. And obviously because I finished the last race in 9th, I start this race in 9th as well. And again, it's just another case of seeing where I can finish this one, seeing how far up the grid I can get. And it's made a little bit easier at this point because I've started in ninth position. I'm not really in the back of the pack. I'm not really as high up as I would like to be, but I'm not as far back as what I was, and it's not going to be quite as difficult to sort of keep a good consistent lap time and keep this position at least reasonably consistent and reasonably stable. So yeah, it's been an interesting one so far. That feature race, I hope you enjoyed that one where I'm overtaking a lot of people, but still it was only a ninth place finish, and that gets me I think that gets me 14 points. So from the first 2 races out of a maximum of 50 points, I've had 14. So even if I was to win the next 2 races, wow, that was ridiculous. I've just remembered about that because it's been so long since I actually participated in this race. It's been a month since I've managed to. It's taken me a month to get the video sorted. I'd forgotten a few things like that, and I had forgotten that was that actually happened. That was way too aggressive. I don't know whether he used the brakes at all there and just used me to stop himself, but never mind. We kept the place at least. So what was I saying? Yes, about the points. It's still only a ninth place finish, and that's what happens when you start that far back. You can make up lots of places, but you're still not getting those sort of top positions that are going to score you good points. So again, it's just about I already know at this point that this is probably going to be my worst scoring round of the season, and that's purely because I started on the back foot in that first race, way down. If I'd managed to sort of finish 17th or 18th or something in that first race and I hadn't been knocked off, I could have maybe salvaged a few more points because I would have then started a little bit further up in the second race. But that's not what happened. I've been on the back foot. I've had a bit of a nightmare, and that I've just you've got to accept that sometimes you can't have a good race all the time, I guess, and it is difficult. The motivation is definitely not there as much as what it could be, and I don't know whether I got hit in the back a little bit there by the guy who's just overtaken me. I can't actually remember whether it was just a little bit of a nudge enough to sort of send me a bit wide there, which is why I got overtaken. But I was aware that he'd sort of come up behind me quite quickly, so I knew that he was quicker than me essentially at that point. So what I decided to do was basically just stick with him and hope that we can together catch up to the guy in front and possibly make up a position that way. Obviously, as you can see there, he manages to get through, and I managed to get through here on the inside by just doing a little cutback there. So yeah, I've sort of, by using him and following him, because I knew that he was a little bit quicker the way that he'd caught up to me, I managed to actually gain that position back by overtaking someone else. But it's not quite over just yet, because I do manage to stick with him for the rest of the race. And as you can see here, I'm just kind of lining up a little bit of a move of what I might do. So, you have to do this when there's someone who's close by you on pace, like he is. We're kind of stuck together, I guess. You have to sort of line up a move and think about what you're going to do before you actually do it. As you can see here, there's very little difference in performance. There's no way that I'm going to just be able to breeze past him easily. So you have to line up what you're going to do, and that's what I did just there, and that's why I left that little bit in, just so you could see sort of a dry run, I guess, of the move that I'm intending to make on the next lap, or at least at some point. Obviously, it's lap 9 now. We're getting close to the end of the race. If I want to actually make this position back again, I'm going to have to make a move pretty soon. So if you want to go back and have a look at that sort of little dry run that I did, you feel free to do that. But this is where I sort of use that practice of what I'd just done to try and get this move done. Obviously, I get a nice run out of that corner, and I basically just dive to the inside and get it done on the brakes. No contact, no nothing. It was a really clean move. No locking of the brakes. It was a really, really nice move. One of the best moves that I've done, I think, throughout this series. I know it's just for one place to go from 8th to 7th, but it was just such a nice move. And when I did, after the race, the guy who I'd overtaken actually did, shake my hand and congratulate me on that overtake, because it was quite a nice one, down the inside on the brakes, and done nice and cleanly as well, which is not something that you always experience further back down in the pack, as we've witnessed during this race. So yeah, finished the race 7th position. I made up 2 positions from the previous race and from where I started, so I've always been able to make up those positions. But we come into the final and I'm starting in 14th place. Now the reason I'm starting in 14th place is because they basically add up all your points from the first 3 races, and that determines your position in the final. So that 25th place, the 0 points, that affects me. It doesn't just affect me for that race, it also affects me for the placing the grid position for the next race, the second race, and it also carries on to affect me for the starting position for the final. It's just having one bad race like that really does affect you for the whole round. You've got to sort of keep that momentum up. If you have a good race in the first race, you've got to try and keep the momentum up. So again, it's just another battle, another starting in 14th position, battling with people further down the pack, just trying to make up those positions again. And it's just the same old story, and you're just having to fight for every single position and every single point you're just having a fight for. So starting in 14th, I'm already up to 11th. I've already made up some positions, and again I get an overtake done on the inside against the same guy who I just did it on the previous race. That one was a bit more difficult because I did lock up because there was a few people in front making mistakes, but I managed to keep it under control, and I'm obviously just pushing on to try and get another position out of it and see where I could come in the final. Now obviously all the trophies are handed out in the final for the top 3 positions. At this point there's no way that I'm ever going to reach the top 3, so having that one bad race at the start really does affect you further on throughout the whole round. But never mind, we just have some fun with it and see where we can come. So over the next 3 laps I kind of just sit behind this pack that are in front of me. I can see that they're all battling. I'm not really making too much of an impression on them, but then I start to realise that people are starting to catch me up behind. So I kind of realise that I need to start making some positions up, otherwise I'm just going to get bogged down with people behind me. And I do feel I have a decent amount of speed to try and make up some positions in this final, and get a bit higher than what I am. So obviously I get a move done up the inside there. It just to say it doesn't come off. Basically, I wasn't far enough ahead, and he manages to keep that position. But it's kind of just a matter of time really with this one. I've been feeling for the last couple of laps that I've been able to get through. I get it done on the brakes going into that corner there, and I'm up into 9th position, and I can see the guys all in front of me battling again. The higher up you go, the more difficult it is to get these overtakes done, because you're just going against people who are already on good pace. They've already got they've got skill. They know how to defend. They know how to attack. They're already racing quite quickly themselves, and it's just I guess I do enjoy this. I do enjoy the battles. I do enjoy having a lot of fun like this, and trying to make it past people. It's a lot better when you sort of don't have anything to lose. I always want some good points for the championship, and when you've got that in the back of your mind that that's not really happening at that point, it becomes a lot less fun, I guess. But when you have nothing to lose, when you know that your points aren't going to be very good, you can enjoy it a lot more. And I did really enjoy this final just because of some of the battles and some of the overtakes that I was doing, and I already knew at that point that there was no way I was going to get anything decent in terms of points out of it. It was all just about position. So as you can see there, I just managed to get enough of a good run out of that last corner just to get out of that corner to get a decent run up the inside there and just get that overtake done, and that puts me into 8th position. And then really, I think the guy who's in front of the guy in front of me does have a little bit of an edge on everyone else, and just starts to drive away a little bit as we're battling behind. And I'm just trying to get in front of the guy who's in front of me in blue. So it's difficult because I know that he's a very good driver. I know that he's going to be defending very hard. And again, I'm half thinking about the people behind me as well. I don't want to stay behind too long. Otherwise, I'll start getting overtaken from the guys who are behind me, who I know are all just there waiting to pounce on an opportunity when they can. So I want to get this overtake done as quickly as possible. You know, it's coming on to lap 8 out of 12. I'm going for different areas, as you can see there. I just didn't get that one done, but I'm just trying sort of as much as I can to get the overtake done. And that would really, you know, make this a decent recovery, I guess. It has been a difficult round, and you have these every now and again, I guess. I certainly had them a lot more in my first season, where I got low point scores. As you've probably seen as we've gone throughout the season and compared the points that I've had in various rounds. But you can't go really without having something like this, I don't think. Certainly I probably couldn't. You have bad luck every now and again. So I just managed to get a decent little run out of the last corner there, which just gives me enough of a overlap, which means he can't defend into the first corner. I managed to get up the inside there, but he sort of, as he tries to turn in, he clips the back end of me, which just unsettles me, so he gets back through. And then at that point, he knew what I was going to do to try and sort of cut back on him, and tried to get over to the inside, but it just wasn't enough. I managed to just slip through on the inside, and that is the final overtake of the episode. So it was quite a decent one. I quite enjoyed that one as well. It's a place where, you know, it's kind of overtakes don't really happen there very often in that way, by going wide and getting the overspeed. But it's a lot of fun when those ones happen. And again, I just try to put in a couple of good laps, just to try and gap the people behind me, so I'm not getting caught up with those again. And as you can see here, I managed to catch up to the guy in front of me just a little bit, not too much, but I put in some decent laps there, with 1 minute 6 and things like that. That's allowed me to sort of keep this 7th position. So yeah, it's been a reasonably good recovery. It's been a sort of a lesson in how to make your way back through the pack, because I've had to do it in so many races. But I prefer not to be in that position next time, you know. Nevertheless, I've made quite a lot of overtakes. Probably one of the episodes that's had the most overtakes in it, and I have managed to get a bit of a recovery drive to score 46 points. That is my lowest of the season, and the first time this season that I've actually got a lower points than what I managed sort of at the same point last season, I'm pretty sure. But never mind, you know, you have to have one of these every now and again. Hopefully this one won't count towards my championship points, but I will talk more about that in the next episode. I hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. I hope it hasn't been too bad watching me sort of a fight at the back of the pack. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone, and we'll be back with another episode of this very soon, because the next round has already taken place. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.